Now, back to this theme of Hermes with the infant Dionysus I mentioned earlier. One idea that came to me seemingly out of nowhere, or I guess from the unconscious somewhere, was the very odd similarities between Mike, the arm, and the television show Fantasy Island. Fantasy Island was originally two made-for-TV movie pilots that aired on television in 1977, and then later it became a TV series starring Ricardo Montalban and Hervé Villechaize, seen here, which the TV show premiered in 1978, and it ran until 1984. Now, in the movie pilots and in the TV show, Montalban plays the mysterious Mr. Rourke with his assistant named Tattoo, played by Villechaize. And their island is situated somewhere, some island situated near a place called Devil's Island. And Mr. Rourke and his assistant, who is actually named, which is a very strange name for an assistant, his name is Tattoo. Every week they welcome a new guest, or they welcome several new guests to the island. And each episode is basically where the guests' fantasies are fulfilled for a price. Now, it's an interesting premise that is incredibly well executed. The show very much has a Twilight Zone feel to it, as many shows in the 70s couldn't help but be influenced by the Twilight Zone. The movie pilots, the two made-for-TV movies, are quite a lot darker than the TV series. So if you have a chance, check out the two pilots. They are fantastic. And they resemble Twin Peaks in a lot of ways. A lot of ways. Now, the ambiguity, the supernatural undertones, the hauntingly soulful music with many surprises, unintended consequences, and these radical character transformations, and you watch these characters go through these it's really quite good. For the regular TV show of Fantasy Island, it's kind of more dialed back, and the darkness really isn't there. But those two first made-for-TV movies are just gold. So, I mean, the regular TV series is okay, but it's really the made-for-TV movies that just ooze Twin Peaks throughout. And subsequently, I can't help but see Tattoo as the mysterious Mr. Rourke's spirit familiar. He's like this sort of, he's definitely like both Ricardo Montalban and Hervé Villechaize are some sort of, they're spirit creatures of some sort. They're definitely deities on some level. And I for sure would say that they also inspired the TV show Lost, if you've seen that or are familiar with that. So watch the two TV movies and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I started to wonder if Fantasy Island was responsible for planting the conscious or perhaps unconscious seed of inspiration for Mike and the arm in Twin Peaks. Given the ambiguous and unexplained nature of Mr. Rourke and Tattoo's seemingly supernatural existence on Fantasy Island, and the fact that David Lynch cherishes the mysterious and unsolvable aspects of storytelling, just as things often are in real life, I couldn't help but make this comparison. And so, for whatever reason, when I did a Google search for Fantasy Island, most of the images I found were indeed of Tattoo at Mr. Rourke's left shoulder. Now, perhaps this is just a strong coincidence, or maybe some unconscious influences are happening here, or even perhaps a demonstration of David Lynch's supreme sense of humor and an homage to one of the most interesting premises for a TV show, being Fantasy Island. In fact, I've since started watching the first season of Fantasy Island again, since I do remember watching that on reruns as a kid. And I must say that the similarities between Twin Peaks and Fantasy Island struck me like a lightning bolt. There are many similarities here, and I'm not sure if anyone has pointed this out before. This in no way ruins Twin Peaks for me at all, and it shouldn't ruin it for you. It's actually quite the opposite. It's really cool to see this stuff. Both shows have this offbeat sense of mystery and just heaps of strangely humorous ambiguity, in addition to some very similar characters that are shared by each show. However, Fantasy Island was campy and funny for many of the wrong reasons, but paradoxically, it explored some very dark and deep territory, carrying some very interesting ideas with it. Although the acting and execution in some places was quite laughable, but it's truly a gem as it succeeds in many key ways, so the goofiness can be excused for the most part. Twin Peaks takes these missteps of Fantasy Island, in my estimation, and just runs with them, both transcending and including that which came before. Now, even the origins of Fantasy Island strike me as rather Lynchian in their inception, as Aaron Spelling, the creator of the show, recounts that the whole idea for Fantasy Island was actually a joke. After about 6 of his show ideas being rejected during a pitch meeting with the head of ABC at the time, Spelling, not very happy about the results of the meeting, just blurts out, quote, "I said as a joke, so what do you want? This great island people can go to and all their sexual fantasies be realized?" End quote. And it turns out that was a show. And Aaron Spelling says, he was just kidding when he made that remark out of frustration. So it seems like staying true to the idea, no matter how it arrives or under what circumstances the idea reaches you, may be one of the secret elements of creativity, as David Lynch has mentioned many times before. So Fantasy Island was just one big joke. Now, here's some more similarities that I don't think are coincidence. Here's a second parallel character archetype of sorts that appears in both shows. In the first TV movie of Fantasy Island, it involves a rich and powerful woman named Eunice Hollander Baines, played by Eleanor Parker. She is the CEO of the family business known as Hollander Woland Mills. She comes to Fantasy Island where her own funeral is to be held after faking her own death. She then disguises herself as one of the servants so that she can be among her family members that come to the island to attend her funeral, in a seemingly clever scheme to find out their true feelings about her and their loyalties to the family business. And of course, we have the other treacherous redhead, Catherine Martell, an intelligent and shrewd woman who runs Packard's sawmill, even though Josie Packard is the rightful owner through marriage. Now, Catherine Martell is a conniving opportunist who decides to fake her own death in a fire that destroys the mill, coming back into town as Mr. Tojimura, a Japanese businessman who succeeds in ruining Ben Horn's business after betraying her. So, 2 powerful and treacherous redheads, each from distrustful families, one from Packard's sawmill, the other from Holland Woland Mills, each presumed dead, only to return in disguise in order to gain the upper hand. I mean, what are the chances? And the similarities don't stop there. The supernatural themes, the offbeat dialogue, as well as this kind of balance between comedy and darkness is common between both of these shows. Now, I can't say who wrote these specific elements into the story of Twin Peaks, nor does it really matter. Twin Peaks included many elements from Fantasy Island and yet succeeded, in my estimation, it succeeded in transcending that which came before, and it created something that becomes its very own thing entirely, which is how the creative process works. Now, I love just finding these early inspirations and influences as a way to honor a certain spirit that points to the collective unconscious in some strange and uncanny parallel way, or perhaps in maybe a time travel sense. I'm not really quite sure.